Hello everyone and welcome to Aussie Cake Decorating. Today I'm going to show you how to flood the board on a cake that you haven't already covered in paper or material or fondant. Now the way to flood a board is to use royal icing. So I've made up a batch of royal icing just like we did on a previous video, although because we want this to have a thinner consistency, what I did was I made it very, very thick first by adding a lot of icing sugar until I could hardly even beat it. And then I added a teaspoon of water at a time until now this royal icing is just like honey consistency. So what I'm going to do is show you how I use that to flood a board. All you're going to need is that royal icing, a spatula or a knife, and just very slowly, one spoon at a time, pour it onto the board like that, going around the board. You don't want a great big heap of it. And then just using the spatula, push it up to the cake like that, and across to the edge of the board as well. Now this gives the effect of having no line between the cake and the boards. You'll be able to see the icing go straight up to the cake and it'll be just perfect. Just like that, and just keep tapping through the icing as well because you don't want any air bubbles. So as you see them come to the surface, just burst them and just keep flattening out that icing. Now this isn't the sort of job you can do half of and come back to later. You really have to do it all in one go, or else you're going to see a line where you started and where you stopped. And on that note, go back to around the place where you started and don't let that dry before you get round to the other side. So in order to ensure that you do that, you do a little bit on one side and then a little bit on the other side. Don't forget to get those air bubbles as you go, bursting them as you go so that they don't come to the surface. Now I have to say, if you're going to be entering into any cake decorating competitions, this is my preferred method. It does tend to get you some extra points because of the degree of difficulty, although between you and I, it's not that difficult, is it? As you can see, it's just a matter of getting the consistency correct for your icing and making sure that there's no air bubbles as you go. But if you've got the time to take that sort of care, I think you will win some big points on that score. Now if you do go over the edge of the board, just give it a wipe. There's no problem with that. Just get a damp rag and wipe it off to try and keep everything nice. Okay. So when you're finished, just go around the board and make sure there's no air bubbles. And then, when you're done, you need to just drop it a little bit. Make sure any air bubbles do come to the surface now rather than later, because at least at the moment, it's still soft and you can burst those air bubbles if they do come to the surface, like that one. So there you have it. Now, that's a nicely flooded board. Now, what you need to do is put this away for a couple of hours at least. It depends on your temperature, your climate. But if it's a cold climate, it will probably take a little bit longer. So just put it away, out of harm's way. Look, I'd like to wait even a day, and then it'll be rock hard. Don't be tempted to come along and stick your finger in it to see if it's ready. Just give it the appropriate amount of time. I would say a day, and then it will be ready for the rest of your decorations.